Welcome back again today, guys. This is All Things Cinco EDC. I'm Cinco. Thank you for joining me. Today's video, I believe, is a super important one. It might be short and sweet, but I think it's probably the most important video I could ever make, and it has to do with safety with firearms. 4 universal rules that every gun owner must memorize before ever getting into firearms training. Let's go over all 4, and then we can elaborate on each one at a time so we can go a little more into detail. And if you learned anything from this video, and I certainly hope you would, subscribe down below, comment down below. The 4 universal rules are: number 1, treat every single gun as if it was loaded, regardless of it being loaded or unloaded. Number 2, some people phrase it differently. Some people say always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. Other people say don't point your gun at anything you're not willing to shoot, kill, or destroy. Number 3, always keep your finger high and off the trigger until your sights are on target and you've made the decision to shoot. And number 4, be aware of your target and what's beyond it and even its surroundings. Now, you should always follow all 4 of these rules, because even missing one of these rules greatly increases the chances of something catastrophic happening, something tragic happening, and we don't want that. No gun owner wants to see somebody else get into a situation like that. So always try to follow all 4 of these rules. Memorize them, ingrain them in your brain, and follow them always. Never neglect one of these. Thankfully, these rules have some overlap that kind of provide safeguards for one and the other. So let's get into it and you'll see what I mean. Number 1, always treat the gun like it's loaded. I hear people all the time flagging or doing something or the other that they shouldn't be doing. And I say, whoa, whoa, whoa. And they say, oh, don't worry about it, it's empty. It doesn't matter if it's empty. Treat every gun as if it's loaded. It will prevent mistakes from happening. I can assure you that 99.9% of law-abiding citizens with good intentions do not have a perfect memory, and sometimes you tend to get complacent with the weapon. And if you always treat it like it's loaded, you won't get complacent. You keep your senses up, you stay on edge, you stay purposeful and mindful of what you're doing with the weapon, regardless of it being loaded or unloaded, and you can prevent tragedies. Also, treating it as if it was loaded every single time will just keep your brain programmed to treating one way, to having one mindset, instead of having to switch off. Yeah, it's loaded now. No, it's not loaded now. If you treat it like it's loaded every single time, you have a one-trained mind when you have a firearm in your hand, and that will lead to further safety. Also, even if somebody else hands you a weapon and says it's clear, it's up to you to check that weapon to make sure it's clear. And even after you check it to be clear, you should treat it as if it was loaded. There are accidents that have happened and tragedies that have happened from people who have neglected to follow these rules. And I'm going to bring up a very famous incident that has happened in the recent news, kind of recent, and that's the Alec Baldwin tragedy, where he killed somebody else because of his recklessness. And it's important we bring it up because it seems to be that the people who most hate guns use the guns, profit off them, neglect gun safety, and then try to put that on everybody else. In his case, he says he was handed a gun, somebody yelled clear, he neglected to check the weapon to see if it was clear, and in fact it wasn't clear. And secondly, he neglected it, point number 2, which is always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. If he would have kept the gun pointed in a safe direction, the tragedy wouldn't have happened, because even if the gun would have went off, it wouldn't have hit anybody, but it did hit somebody. So number 2, always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. In case anything ever happens, you don't hit somebody, you don't shoot, kill, or destroy something that you didn't mean to shoot, kill, or destroy. This is one of the overlaps that I was referring to earlier in the video, is that if point number 1 is ever neglected and something goes off and somebody didn't treat the gun like it was loaded, or they bet their life that it was unloaded and it wasn't, if it's pointed in a safe direction, you can avoid all these tragedies. A gun is not a toy. You shouldn't point it at anybody. You shouldn't be playing around. I've even seen ridiculous people point the gun at themselves just to take pictures for the internet. Some people are going to die trying to take photos, and it's not a toy. Rule number 3, always keep your finger high and off the weapon until you're ready to shoot. I'll show you here. For the purpose of this video, we have the PSA dagger. It is free and clear. Nothing in the weapon. You always put the bolt back, visually inspect. Most people say stick your finger in there, but if that thing ever goes flying forward, that'll hurt. Weapon's clear. We'll keep the magazine out of it for the purposes of this video. Drop the slide. until you're ready to shoot. You always want to keep your finger high and off the trigger so that you have no accidental discharges. Most people, when they're learning how to shoot, want to grip the crap out of the weapon, and along with gripping with these 3 fingers, this finger inadvertently wants to squeeze also. Even when you're at the range, you should always take the weapon, put it in front of you, keep your finger off the trigger while you're lining up your sights, and only until you're ready to line up your sights and shoot, you slide your finger down to the trigger, slowly pull, and bam, fire the weapon in the direction that you intended it to. Even in a self-defense scenario, you should keep your finger high and off the trigger until you've made the decision to shoot, because if you're holding your weapon and you happen to have your finger on the trigger, at a reaction, you may squeeze that trigger when you didn't intend to. So always keep your finger high and off the trigger until you've made the decision that you are going to fire the weapon. Rule number 4, always be aware of your target and what is beyond it. You should even know what is around your target, because there are no perfect shooters. All shooters tend to miss, so you should know what is to the left, to the right, and beyond your target. There is a reason why your self-defense ammo should be hollow point ammo, because if you use regular range ammo, bolt ammo, you will have over-penetration. You don't want to shoot somebody trying to defend your life and end up hitting the person behind them. That would be a whole nother tragedy. Not only that, even if you're training, you want to know what's beyond your target. You want to make sure that when you're shooting to train, you don't inadvertently hit something you didn't mean to hit. So hollow point ammunition is important, because if you ever have to defend your life, you only want to defend your life from the person that was threatening your life. And if you ever have to shoot somebody, you want that round to stay in them, not over penetrate. And marksmanship is also important, because you don't want to miss. If you miss and hit somebody behind them, every bullet comes with the lawyer. You're going to be in a huge, big deal of trouble, and we don't want that for anybody. We want good, law-abiding citizens defending their lives from anybody that is threatening the freedom and the well-being of anybody else. In the case of the Alec Baldwin tragedy, he didn't even mean to shoot the first person, but because of negligence, he hit the producer. And not only that, it went through her and hit the guy behind her. And that's a separate tragedy. Both tragedies happened from one bullet. In that incident, so many of the rules were violated. He did not treat the gun as if it was loaded. He did not check it even after somebody said it was clear, when in fact it wasn't. He did not point the gun in a safe direction, because even on movie sets, from what I've heard from other actors and other people in the business, they point it just off. You never point it at the person, you point it just off the person, so it looks like you're pointing it at him on camera. So this is a much shorter video, but it's a very serious one. Probably the most important I could do for you guys. No gun owner should get into firearms training without first memorizing these rules and always implementing them, whether from rookie to master expert. These are rules that never go away. And as much as nobody wants to say this, at some point in your career as a gun owner, you will more than likely have a negligent discharge or an accidental discharge. It's just the nature of handling a weapon. But if you follow these rules, you can avoid tragedies. Hopefully you never have an accidental discharge or a negligent discharge, but all of us as humans, we make mistakes, and our job is to prevent any tragedy happening from these mistakes. Another rule that I just want to add, but it's not the universal gun safety rules, but I think it's just as important: teach kids gun safety. The earlier the kids realize the gravity and the seriousness of a firearm, the earlier they can avoid a tragedy. Curiosity won't get the best of them. Even though kids are kids, they will be curious. It's still your job to keep them locked up and out of kids' hands. It's important to know these rules and exercise the safety. Guns are just tools. They're not any more dangerous than a knife is if you follow proper safety procedures. Since so many people want to say that guns are inherently dangerous and they're not just a tool, I'm running an experiment here. For any of you wondering, I have this bad boy sitting here waiting for him to go off by himself. And if he does, I'll shoot him graveyard dead. But he hasn't, because guns are just guns. They're tools. They're meant for special purposes, and they're not any more dangerous than the person that is holding the gun. It's just like a knife. In countries where they ban guns, knife murders go up, because it's the people that are the problem, not the tools. After somebody has killed somebody in a DUI accident, I have never seen anybody boycott Toyota because their car was used in a DUI. In the same way that even if somebody uses a gun for a bad purpose, The gun was just a gun. It did what it was supposed to do. It's the person that's evil and should be held accountable. So be accountable to yourself, be accountable to those around you, follow safety, and make sure that you avoid all tragedies whenever possible. That's it for today. I am Cinco. This is All Things Cinco EDC. If you learned anything today, and hopefully you did, please subscribe down below. I hope to do more informative videos like this, not just gun reviews, because I think people should be informed as much as they should be equipped. So get armed, get trained, protect the innocent. Have a good one.